I will never ever recognize any Creole as a language. Well, that's why you're not a linguist. And you know my favorite thing about facts is that they're true whether you recognize them or not. This is definitely one of the most colonial comments I've ever received. Yet you clearly recognize that there are things called Creole. Are they communicating telepathically? Well, no, they're speaking a language, right? Creoles are languages. While we're here, let's do a quick lesson. What makes a language a Creole? The exact methods and mechanics of their formation is debated, but they're pretty much formed by two or more languages coming into contact with each other, and their speakers cannot communicate with each other. They have nobody to translate, but they still need a way to communicate. First, they come up with a very simplified set of grammar and a few words. For example, you want 5 food? I give 10 money. Imagine how you'd communicate as a tourist trying to buy something in a country where nobody speaks your language and you don't speak theirs. That creates what's known as a pidgin. And then eventually the next generation gets raised with the pidgin kind of like their native language. But because it's so basic, they need to fill in all the gaps with more grammar and words. Then it becomes a Creole. So by definition, a Creole is actually a fully developed language in contrast to its earlier stage of being a pidgin. It can happen anywhere where there's 2 or more groups of people that can't but need to communicate with each other, but it's especially common in colonial contexts. That's why we see it a lot in the Caribbean region, West Africa, as well as many Pacific islands. The dominant language, which is typically a colonizer language, becomes what's called a lexifier. That is, they provide a lot of the words to the language. And a lot of the function, the prepositions, the grammar words are filled in by the local indigenous languages, as well as in many cases by African languages that were brought over with slaves. So there's a lot that sounds similar to English, Spanish, French, Portuguese, because those are often lexifiers, but they also have a lot of interesting mixes from sometimes dozens of other languages. They are languages, and they are just as real, just as valid, just as beautiful as any other. Every accent, every dialect, every language, the way everybody speaks around the world are equally valid and beautiful.